Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that all life is interconnected and interdependent. And spirituality and ancient wisdom has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons. Science is just now catching up. So literally, what you do to another person, you are literally doing to an aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is Afterlife Communications with Sonia Rinaldi. Sonia is connecting with me all the way from Brazil. Thank you, Sonia, so much for being my guest on Awake to Oneness Radio. Please, Sonia, introduce yourself. I'm familiar with your work and got to meet you in person at the Afterlife Symposium a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, actually, just last month. So that was amazing to get to meet you and to see your presentation live. That was great. Can you please, but many of our listeners may not be familiar with who you are in your work. Can you please share your journey and how you got started in this amazing work that you're doing?
Okay, thank you. First of all, my apologies for my mistakes in English, but as you said, I'm a Brazilian, so possibly I will say something wrong, but what is important is that the listener can understand, even with the mistakes, right? Yes. So, about me, about 30 years ago, I became interested in something more concrete that could prove to me that the afterlife was a reality. And by that time, I heard that people in Europe were recording voices. And that told me something, because I said, well, if this can be, if this is real, well, it is approved. So it is not something like a fantasy. And then I started following what I heard about and how to start and everything. And for 3 years, in truth, I didn't get anything. Okay. Possibly because, in truth, I didn't know what I was looking for. Okay. After these 3 years, yes, I started listening for the first voices, and then it was by the time of recorded tape, cassette tapes. We didn't use computer yet by that time, and then after some years, things went bettering, and now we have the voices, sometimes absolutely clear, voices from the other side, from the deceased ones, as well as images. So that's what I have been doing in these 30 years, and what I do now. Wow. I connect with the other side, with the deceased ones, via voice and via images. And this is called instrumental transcommunication.
Wow, amazing. Now, let's see, you've been doing this work for 30 years. Now, when you I know you said that you heard that 30 years ago, you heard that they were doing this work in Europe. That was, if people didn't understand that word, she said Europe. But my question to you is, what kind of drove you 30 years ago? Was there did someone transition? I use the word transition because I know there's no death. Did someone close to you transition 30 years ago that got you interested in this work?
No, not exactly. In truth, I just lost my husband about 15 years ago. So when I started, it was just for me to be sure of something. I wanted not to, because I think that when you choose a religion for your life, it is something that you guide your life. Whatever is the religion, it will give you some steps, some directions for your life. And I didn't want to go through something that I wasn't sure, and that I didn't have enough proof that that was real. So that was the reason why I started. I wanted to prove that the communication with the other side was possible, and that the afterlife exists. Mm-hmm. So by that time, I didn't lose anyone. Just later, after 15 years, I lost my husband.
I see. And so for you, and your religion, were you raised Catholic? I'm just, being in Brazil, I'm thinking Catholic is the dominant religion. Were you raised Catholic?
Yes, in truth, I studied in a school of nuns, but that didn't tell me anything. Mm-hmm. And then I looked for myself a way, and discovered the spiritualism and became interested. It was by that time that I wanted to be sure. I didn't want to waste my life on something that could be not truth. I see. So I wanted to have proofs of the afterlife, so that I wouldn't be wasting my time believing in something that was not concrete. And that's how I started.
Okay. Now, I asked you about that. I was not raised Catholic, but I was sent to Catholic school, and I was baptized Episcopalian, which is very close to Catholicism. Most of my family was Baptist, but so I was brought up in the Christian religion, but not the Catholic Christian. To me, it's the same, but not, it never, especially going to Catholic school as a very young person. I was like 4 or 5 when I went to kindergarten and in Catholic school. What I was being taught in Catholic school in religion class did not resonate with me from the beginning. It's just like, no, this does not sound right. So, but I was raised in a very strict household where children are to be seen and not heard. So I couldn't say, this doesn't sound right. I couldn't say that. So I had to wait till I got to be a young adult to actually start investigating spiritualism on my own. But I felt I needed to. Yes. So yes, amazing. So now let's get into, the work that you do, you gave it a name. You said it's
instrumental transcommunication.
Okay. Now, I guess people want to know, so you're communicating by audio, you're getting audio messages from spirits on the other side, and you're also getting images. So I think that people, you don't have to get very technical, but they want to kind of have an idea of how you're doing that.
Okay. Well, nowadays, I do everything through one computer. One computer is a full station today. But when I started, obviously, 30 years ago, I didn't use computer, so it was much more complicated. And I used the radio, used tape recorders, and all this old technology that we don't need anymore. And through computer, things became much easier because you can register either images or voice in the computer. So it is much easier nowadays. To whom wanted to start.
Right. Now, I understand that you're getting the images and the voices through computer, but everybody's using a computer nowadays. And not everybody is capturing images and voices from their loved ones on the other side through their computer. So, okay. Well, okay, go ahead.
So no, I think that obviously you have to be disposed to practice it, to get in touch with the other side, and to make yourself known for them. So they will discover, oh wow, Caroline wants to talk to us, because in the other side we have to consider that they have a huge transmission station.
Okay.
So that they speak and they their images are transmitted to us via technology from the other side. So whenever he sees that the ones in our side are serious, honest, decent people, obviously they are also interested in contacting these people. But obviously, if the person is just doing that for curiosity, they will not waste their time, right?
Okay.
So I think that nowadays it is becoming more and more popular, this communication with the other side, because many persons like me want to have something more concrete,
Right.
not only like via mediums, right? So it is getting popular now.
Now, are you using special software um, to capture these images and to capture these audios?
No, precisely softwares that are on the internet.
Yes.
Just for instance, for recording audios, I just use an audio recorder, which is very well known,
Okay.
and for images as well, just a camera. And obviously, with the time, you learn what functions better, either for voices or for images. And for so that every time I am frequently changing the techniques that I'm using.
Yes.
So sometimes some 2-3 weeks I change because I perceive that something called my attention, and that way is better.
Okay.
So, for instance, I perceived it long ago that they need light to modulate the light into formats. So I arranged cloths with bright or paper also bright. So I'm changing things so that they can test. And then we are summing the results and see what functions better.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love the fact that you're being so scientific about it, because like you said, where there are a lot of credible mediums, and I've had many credible mediums as guests on my show, and I've met many very credible mediums, but like you said, that's not scientific. I mean, they are getting messages and delivering those messages to us, but there's no scientific evidence behind that. So I love the fact that you're collecting scientific evidence for those people that are just like, I don't believe it if I don't see it. So that's really, really amazing that you're doing that. Myself, now, I learned about this kind of work through first having an experience of this work. My son transitioned a little over 4 years ago, on July 1st, 2014. He was a young man, only 29 years old. And I knew when he transitioned that I wanted a reading with a medium, but I told myself I am not going to go look for a medium. I am going to let it come to me, basically. And I didn't know at the time. I started this show, Awake to Oneness Radio, about 6 months after my son's transition. I was just inspired to do this work. And so I had different, like I said, I had different channels and mediums as guests. And a guest of mine recommended Suzanne Giesemann to be a guest of mine. And after I had Suzanne Giesemann as a guest, I said to myself, that's the medium I want to connect with for my first reading. And it was 2 years after my son's transition before I had my first reading. But Suzanne gave me a reading, gifted me a reading on my son's birthday 2 years ago. And the amazing thing that happened in that reading, soon as she, introduced, as soon as she asked Kyle to come in, there was this whooshing sound that she had never heard before. And at the time when we were recording it live, I couldn't hear it. And then she kept asking me, you don't hear that? And I'm like, no, I don't hear that. And you know what? I should have had that clip too, so you could hear that. I think I sent it to you. but I should have had it ready to let the listeners hear it. But so I could not hear a thing. But she said you would definitely hear it in the audio, and I did. She sent me the audio of that reading, and all through the audio there's this whooshing sound. And this is the first time. Now, she's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of readings, and this is the first time this has happened with her. And also, there's a point in that audio. There's two things that are very clear. There's a point where you can actually, because Kyle was holding my dog who had transitioned in 2007. Kyle was holding my dog, Coco. Now you can clearly hear dogs bark on that audio, clearly. And then you can also clearly hear, not make out what he's saying, but you can clearly hear a male, you can hear his, I know it's his voice. Now Susan doesn't know his voice, I know his voice. You could clearly hear his voice, and you can't make out what he's saying, but there's one spot where you can clearly hear his voice. So that's how I got introduced to this work, was having that experience. And then I learned about EVP, electronic voice phenomena, and that's what happened during that reading was an EVP that is just so precious to me. So I knew before I had a reading that Kyle wasn't gone, but to have that physical evidence, like you said, for those naysayers that need that physical proof, and what your work is doing, that it is making all of what the mediums are doing credible to those who just like, I don't believe it. You know?
Yeah.
So that is amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now you sent to me several images and several audios that we want to share with the listeners. So we are gonna I had put all of the images and audios in a PowerPoint presentation. So we're gonna share that PowerPoint presentation right now. Okay. So I'm going to start with the first slide, which is of Tesla, Nikolai Tesla, who I think is so cool. Okay. And I'm going to, let's see, it's just that because we're connected through Zoom, things go a little bit slower. Now, can you see the slide as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Please share with our listeners what we're looking at right now.
Yes, this was the apparition of Nikola Tesla. Tesla announced himself about 1 year ago that he was assuming the coordination of all the stations from Earth, from the other side to Earth. Mm-hmm. And since then, I would say that the quality of the images and voices became amazing. So this is his apparition. Observe that he is smiling, and there is on Earth no image from Tesla smiling, because he was a scientist, and by that time it wouldn't be nice be smiling, right? Yes. He had to be serious. So all the images of his life, he's serious, he's not smiling, but now from the other side he's smiling, as you can see.
Yes.
And another thing very important, he is completely renewed. And he looks young.
Yes.
And he died by the age of 86 years old. So it is something that we learn, that in the other side, if even that you died old, in truth you will get younger, and by the age 40 years old, in at least in the place where they live, it is a city which they call Alpha, and they transmit from Alpha to us. And so in Alpha, even that you had died old, you will get younger.
Awesome. Well, that's amazing, because in that first reading I had with my son, he did say through Suzanne that when he transitioned, he was 29, so he never lived to be a old man on this side, but he did say that he was more like in his early 20s and full of, when he passed, he transitioned, he wasn't ill, but now he's well, and he's more like he's in his early 20s. So I love that you said that. You know what? I just recall something. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I want to make sure, this is the first time I'm sharing audio, a PowerPoint. I want to make sure I have that audio box checked. That, remember, we tested. So I'm just going to share again, but I'm going to make sure, it's checked. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to that first slide. Okay. It takes a little bit of time because of the connection. There we go. Okay. Yes. I just wanted to make sure you're going to be able to hear the audio when we get to it. Okay. So now we're going to go to the next slide. Next slide.
Yeah, this is Craig's mom apparition. I suppose that you met Craig. He was
yes, Craig Hogan.
Yes, Craig Hogan.
Yes.
He is the president of AREI, and he was coordinating the symposium where we meet each other.
Yes.
And this was his mom apparition. Here in the first image, there is a lady, which is my friend, Nilsa, and I was making an experiment with her. And I was filming her. She was in her home, and I was filming her in my screen. And all of a sudden, Nilsa became this young lady below, which is a trans image, but basically on Nilsa's face. So now you may look at the picture in the middle and observe Craig's mom at the left. And you see that the lady, his mom, is quite similar to Nilsa's alteration. So that this trans image was Craig's mom apparition.
Okay, yes. Craig has been a guest on Awake to Oneness Radio.
Okay.
Yes, Craig is amazing. I love his. Matter of fact, the other thing, here's how I got introduced to Craig. It all started with the reading with Suzanne Giesman, and I sent that audio of that session to Craig. 2 years ago, and he actually responded back right away and wrote out everything he thought he could hear that Kyle was saying in that audio. So that was amazing. That's how I got introduced to Craig, and he analyzed the audio from the reading I had with Suzanne. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, this is a very important picture, trans image, because here it was used a new technology from the other side, and this was a noun boy. This young boy, observe the color of his hair. It is a very particular red hair, and I didn't know this young man, so he appeared from nothing. So I think that this was already Tesla testing transmission via wormholes, which is possibly the new technology that you use from now on, which connects their side to ours straight directly, with using nothing from our side. And this guy, this young boy, was the first one that came from nothing. It popped up on my screen coming from nowhere, from nothing.
Wow, that is amazing. Because when you say that it came from nowhere, and you weren't even, at the time, I guess you weren't even trying, and this popped up, that kind of puts me in mind of like, the audio from Kyle, because I didn't even know anything about EVP. Of course, Suzanne, being a medium, she had heard of EVP, but she was not a medium that worked with EVP. So it wasn't that she wasn't trying to get him to come through the computer, and I had no idea. So it was just, it's like it just came automatically. So that is really, yeah, I love that. I love that when things happen spontaneously when you're not even trying. Those are,
Yeah.
I think those are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, next slide.
Here we have Jennifer, and Jennifer is the daughter of a friend of mine, American.
Mm-hmm.
And this young lady was murdered by her fiancé with 8 shots. And there is no picture, her mother has no picture similar to this one below, which is Jennifer's trans image. All the pictures that her mom has are completely different from this one. And it is the only one that she is not showing the teeth. She was always smiling largely. And in this trans image, we can see that it is Jennifer, but she is a bit different. And it is how she looks like now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Next one. Okay. Next slide.
This is Sarah's apparition. And Sarah is the mother of another friend from London. She's British, this friend of mine, Janine. So Janine wanted news from her mother, and it was very interesting because when I requested Sarah's news and if she could appeared this very young lady that we can see below.
Yes.
And immediately I thought, is that possible that this young lady is Sarah? Because she's very different. She's so young.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent the picture, the trans picture, to Janine in London. And she looked for her mother's picture when she was young. And in truth, it was just the same. I think that the next trans image is shows Sarah's when she was young.
Okay.
Look down, observe that when Sarah was young, she was this picture below,
Yes.
and observe that she is just similar as she is now. So she got younger. So she's quite well, quite renewed, and she died from cancer, much older.
Yes, yes, it's beautiful. Yes, yes, and I love. Yes, that is oh, it's amazing. Like, yeah, I think when we cross over, when we go on to the other side, we could kind of choose what age we want to appear as, because I've heard of actually at the conference, I believe there was a young man that transitioned. He was older, but he comes through as a child. So
Yes.
I think we can choose what we're, I think, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, this is Helen's apparition. Helen is the mother of Joanne, also from the United States. And observe that she died very, very old, by the age of 87, if I remember.
Yes.
And Helen looks much younger, by the age of 50s, no more, and is smiling. And Joanne was very impressed to see her mom so renewed, so young.
Oh, wow.
You have the sensation that your loved one is well.
Yes.
Because she's smiling. So
yes, and like you said, like you said in the Tesla picture, Tesla, there's not many pictures of Tesla when he was here, but none smiling. And the image, the trans image that you're getting from the other side, he's smiling.
Yes.
So that does say that they're well. And I do believe that. I believe that much. Okay. And next slide.
Yeah, this is a case from Brazil. I have a person who looked for me. She had lost her daughter, Tatiana.
Mm-hmm.
And in that experiment, I was filming the mom. She came to my lab here in my house. Mm-hmm. And I was filming herself, the mom. Mm-hmm. And she was transformed into her daughter, into Tatiana. So you can see Tatiana in the image below. Yes. And above you see Tatiana now, as she looks now. And this was based in Tatiana's mother's face.
Wow, wonderful.
I made many experiments using persons in front of the camera as well. And the transformation happens in real time. So we can see in the computer the transformation and the deceased one appearing.
Wow, awesome. That is wonderful. And then that like you said, it does give the loved one, like the mom, knows that her daughter is still well and doing. It's such a sense of peace. I know that for me as a mom with a child in spirit, that it to me it brings such a sense of peace. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, this is another American case. The mother of these two boys, they are brothers.
Yes.
This is Sean and Kyle from California. They were murdered by their father. And their father killed both sons and then committed suicide.
Oh.
So, and this was a particular very curious case, because when I was, the mom had sent me these pictures that we are seeing here, and I was filming the pictures, the photos, and the photo started changing and appeared as a video of their lives. If we can see the next slide,
yes.
We will have, you see that Sean, no, sorry, this is Kyle. Kyle appeared as much younger first, as in the trans image above. And then his mother sent me a picture when Kyle was 5 years old. Yes. So he died by the age of 11, but he appeared here as much younger. And it was like a film of his life. He became, he appeared by the age of 5 years old, and then he went growing up until he was something like 16. So more with more age than when he died.
Interesting. Yeah, and you say Kyle because when you say the name Kyle, I always think my son's name was Kyle. So the name is very dear to me. And I actually have used Kyle as an acronym. I started a foundation in my son's memory called the Kyle Foundation. And Kyle it stands for Keep Your Light Expanding. So that's what Kyle stands for me. But that's beautiful. Very, very nice. Okay. Here next, Brandon.
Yeah, this is Brandon's apparition. His mom, Mia, lost him with the age of 12 years old by cancer. And this apparition appeared in Mia's house. So it was another type of experiment that I was making. I was talking to Mia via Zoom, and her son appeared behind her in this image. I think that the next one is also Brandon's.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Let's see. Yes.
Yes.
You see, observe that at the left we have Brandon's photo.
Yes.
And at right, as he appeared in Mia's house, this arm that you can see is Mia's. It is the mom's seeing her son in her house.
Wow.
And obviously, she have never seen this picture as Brandon appeared.
That is amazing. That is so wonderful. Wow. That does, like you say, that just brings the parents such a sense, to me, a sense of peace, that knowing your child is not gone, they're still with you, and they're well, they're happy, and they're well. That's great. Awesome. Okay, now we've finished with the images. We've come to the first audio clip, and this is Alex.
Yes, Alex is Katarina's son. He died of a Marfan syndrome by the age of 19. And in this recording, I was talking via Zoom with Katarina and recording our conversation. And so that we and Katarina were talking both to her, this is the son, Alex. And at this moment of this audio, I asked Alex if his grandpa was there, because Katarina wanted to know if her father was there too. And he replies, before my question, he says, right here, indicating that his grandpa was there too.
Yes.
So I think that we can listen.
Yes, I'm going to play in a second. When you say that he answers it before you even ask, that is so true of spirit, because they are actually responding to our thought more than our words. So you thought the question before you asked it. So he was responding. And that actually, remember I said in the audio of my session with Suzanne, there's my Coco. And actually the bark, you can hear Coco's bark before Suzanne says, and Kyle is holding a white dog. So you hear it before. So you're hearing, it happens. They're a couple of seconds ahead of us, to put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to play it right now.
Right here.
Are you with your grandpa there?
Right here. Right here.
Okay, were you able to hear that on your end, Sonia?
Yes, I did. I listened.
Awesome. Very, very good. Well, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was working as far as the audio on your end. Awesome. Very, very good. So we'll go to the next audio.
Okay.
This is also Alec. You want to say a little bit about this one?
Okay, let me see. Yes, it is Alex again. And he said in this same recording with Katarina, with his mother together, he said, "Love Wilson." And in this first moment, I didn't know who could be this Wilson. But Katarina promptly said that he was referring to Suzanne Wilson, which is a comedian.
Yes.
And Katarina made some readings with Suzanne Wilson, and it was a kind of identification from Alex, because whenever in the readings, whenever Katarina was speaking to Suzanne Wilson, and Suzanne used it to say, "Oh, I love so much this young guy," and so he replied to Suzanne saying he loved Wilson. He says, "Love Wilson." We can listen.
But that's one. Yes. Well, yes, of course. I know Suzanne Wilson. She has been a guest on my show, and I did get to meet her in person a couple of times at 2 conferences. So, yes, I love Suzanne too, Alex. So. Here's the audio.
Hi, Alex. Love you so. Love you so. Love you so.
Yes. Were you able to hear that as
Yes.
well? Oh, awesome. Very good. I just wanted to make sure. I know that the audience will be able to hear everything. I just wanted to make sure you're able to hear everything on your end. Amazing.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to the next audio.
Yeah, okay. It is it's still Alex.
Yes, it is.
He says, Rinaldi, they are here. I think this curious, they call me for my surname, right?
Mhm.
Instead of Sonia, but
Yes.
he called me as Rinaldi. They are here, referring to the people from the transmission station that were there with him. So he says, Rinaldi, they are here.
Okay. Just like, well, Alex in particular likes to use surname because he's Suzanne Wilson. He used her surname as
Yeah,
well. So that
that's
might
right.
a personal thing. He might like using surnames.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex, are you seeing me? Reno, like they are here. Alex, are you seeing me? Reno, like they are here. Alex, are you seeing me? Reno, like they are here.
Yeah, in truth, we know that they speak from a transmission station, and as far as we know, there is a huge screen, something like our cinemas, in the
Mhm.
other side where they can see us when
Yes.
we are talking to them. So when I asked him if he was seeing me, he said that all of them were there and watching me on the screen. So that is what he meant.
Awesome. Yes. And the other thing I want to point out too, there, the spirit realm is not much different than here in the sense that they maintain their personality. You know, whatever
Yes.
their personality was here, they have that same personality on the other side. So,
Yeah,
yes,
that's correct.
yes. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next. Okay. So we're
Yeah,
on 4. Audio.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
This is Katarina's father, Mr. Velsico, and he said, to work with Maca, I can do. Maca is how the ring is
That's okay.
ringing. Can I just say to
Sure,
ask
you
him to
can.
return later?
Yes,
If
no
you can
problem.
edit it, right? Hold on a
Okay,
second.
no problem.
Oi, Guilherme, tudo bom? Não, é porque eu quero tirar um negócio, mas eu estou gravando o programa agora. Pode ser passar um pouco mais tarde? Eu lá pelas 5 e pouco? Já foi? Nem me fala, nossa, nem me fala. Tá bom? Mas passa mais tarde, por favor. Tá bom? Obrigada, tchau. I'm sorry.
No
Okay.
worries.
Okay.
No worries.
It's solved.
So we're on
So,
number 4. Audio.
yeah,
4.
number 4. So
Yes.
Katarina's father says and that he can, he says, to work with Maca, I can do. Maca is her nickname, Katarina's nickname when she was a child. And
Mhm.
obviously, I have never heard of this word, but
Yes.
it was pronounced by her father as a
Yes.
way of identification. So, right, so Mr. Veselko, he is Serbian,
Yes.
and he speaks he speaks English but with a Serbian accent, and he says to work with Mac I can do.
Yes. Okay, so I'll play the audio now.
To work at Moscow. To work at Moscow. To work at Moscow.
Awesome. Yes, and I love that. Like he used her nickname that he
Yeah.
would call her because mediums like Suzanne Wilson and Suzanne Giesman will say that's the kind of evidential
Yeah.
that's the kind of evidence they look for, you know, because they wouldn't know, no one would really know that. So that's awesome, amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on to the next one. The next one is Brandon.
Yeah, the little boy.
Yes.
And well, about Brandon, Mia, her mom, is waiting him to return to her.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a very particular case. And in this moment of the conversation with Brandon, I asked him, will you return to your mom? Because that is what we expect, that he will return, he will reincarnate as Mia's son again.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Mia was also very interested in knowing this. So when I ask him, will you return to your mom? He says, the idea is to help. And it is very interesting because not only he's confirming that he is coming back, but that the idea is to help. And really, Mia was needed this help, this comfort of having him back.
Yes.
So it says, the idea is to help.
Okay, I'm going to play the audio.
Will you return to your mom? The idea to help. Will you return to your mom? The idea to help. Will you return to your mom? The idea to help.
And it sounds so sweet in his voice.
Yes.
His voice, yes. Okay, the next one is also Brandon.
Yeah, in truth, this was a recording, the recording that I made via Zoom with the couple. In truth, were on the line, not only Mia, but her husband, John,
yes.
And me in this side here in Brazil, in this end, and Brandon speaking from the station, so that we have these three places, California, São Paulo in Brazil, and the transmission station. So John was speaking to his son, Brandon, and then John says, thank you, Brandon, for coming visit me and for helping me. And you feel that John is very emotional at this moment.
Yes.
And Brandon replies, I thank you, Dad. Very, very cute.
Yes, I'm going to play that.
Thank you, Brandon, for coming to visit me and for helping me. Thank you, Brandon, for coming to visit me and for helping me. Thank you, Brandon, for coming to visit me and for helping me.
Yes. Yes, hearing Brandon's voice is so sweet. The children,
Yeah.
I have such a heart for children, and they're such angels, all of them, and all of our loved ones are angels on the other side. And when I say the other side, but also, my mission is about oneness, and I truly believe the reason we can communicate with our loved ones on the other side of the veil is because there is still just one. We think as the physical and spiritual realms as separate, but in truth, they are connected. And that is why we are able to communicate, because the oneness of it all, we're never separated from the ones that we love. So
Yeah, that's true.
That's amazing. All right, to the next slide. Okay, we have Brandon again.
Yeah, also from Brandon, and speaking to his father, it is interesting because Brandon replied before his father to show that he was emotional and he was crying. And Brandon says to his father, deep breath. And this is very interesting because usually his father used to say this to Brandon when he was crying or he was anxious. His father taught him to deep breath as to relax. And this time he says to his father, deep breath. And then John says, please try to continue visiting me often to meet me you will help me. We will come to visit. So he was crying, and the son says to the father, a deep breath.
Oh, that is wonderful. Now let's hear that. That's amazing. I love that.
Please come continue to visit me often. It makes me very happy when you come to visit. Please come continue to visit me often. It makes me Please come continue to visit me often. It makes me
That is so wonderful. And you know what? Brandon, thank you. I'm thanking Brandon right now because I have to remind myself when things get to me, I have to, from moment to moment, I have to remind myself to take a deep breath and ground myself in the now moment. And I make a recommendation to my listeners to always, the best thing when you're really upset and the world seems like it's going crazy is to stop, be still, take a deep breath, and ground yourself in the now moment. So thank you, Brandon, for reminding us all to do that. Thank you. Yes. Okay, next slide. Okay, Tesla. Oh, Tesla and Mr. Murray.
Yes, Mr. Murray is the husband of a friend from Canada, Betty Ann, and all these people who we are talking appeared in Transimage, either Alex or Brandon or Tesla or Mr. Murray. All of them appeared in Transimages too. So at this moment, I was making a recording, and I asked if Mr. Murray would be able to talk, and Tesla says, you will see him in Transimage, he refers, right? And then Mr. Murray says, I will try from the north. From the north is the North Station. We learned all this about 1 year ago, since Tesla appeared, that we had a South Station that was in contact with me here in Brazil, with South America, and that there exists a North Station that to assist North America, in truth, Canada and United States, but also countries of English language, such as England and Australia as well. But at this moment, Mr. Murray and Tesla was speaking from the North Station, and Tesla says that you'll see him, meaning I'll see Mr. Murray, and Mr. Murray says I'll try from North America, from the north, meaning North Station.
Yes. Okay, and I'll play that clip.
Will Mr. Murray?
You'll see him. I will try from the north.
Will Mr. Murray?
You'll see him. I will try from the north.
Will Mr. Murray?
You'll see him. I will try from the north.
It is curious that Tesla still maintains a certain Serbian accent in his English. In spite that he lived in England, in the United States for some decades, but he was originally Serbian, so he has an accent.
Yes. I just recently saw a documentary on Tesla, and he came to the United States, and I want to say he came to, New York, but I could be wrong. He came to the United States when he was in his teens, about maybe 18, 19. When he came
that's it. Yeah, when he first met Thomas Edison. Yeah.
Yes, actually, he came to the United States to meet Thomas Edison, and he did work with Thomas Edison for a while. Yes.
For a while, yeah.
Yes, I was very interested in Tesla, and so I just recently saw a
He's
documentary.
incredible.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And he's incredible and still doing that work, the same work he was doing while he was here in the physical. He's still doing that same work, which is amazing. Awesome.
Yes.
Next slide. Talk about
And
Tesla.
that is Tesla.
Yes.
And informing that Maine lives in the north. Observe his accent. It is interesting because he's informing that many spirits, many deceased ones, lives in the north and work in the north station. In truth, we learned that many Nobel Prize are working in the station, such as Dennis Gabor. Dennis Gabor was who created the holography, and he works at the North Station. And they are trying now to transmit transholography, so that we are already receiving trans images that are more concrete. They are 3D. So this is the result of these genius that are in the North Station. So in the next audio, Tesla says, many lives in the north.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to play that now.
Many lives in the north. Many lives in the north. Many lives in the north.
Yes. Yes, I think, I'm not sure, but I think there's probably, I could be wrong on this, but there are probably more people on Earth living in the northern hemisphere than the southern hemisphere. I could be wrong on that, but
no, I didn't think of that, but maybe because Russia is very big and is in the north, but China, I think is more in the south. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think you're right.
Middle, yeah, yes. But it could be also the meaning, yes.
Yes. I'm thinking because of the United States and England and, like you say, Russia. I don't know how many people, and China, no, but China has a very large population. I think that is more south. Yes, trying to remember my geography. Okay, we're to our last audio clip, which I think is also Tesla again.
Yeah, I was asking Mr. Tesla if at that moment I would like to say a word with Alex, which is Katarina's son, and I asked if it was possible, and he says, confirms that Alex is in the north, meaning North Station, and that he is waiting. So the question is, now I would like to say a word with Alex. Can I? And the reply is, in the north, he's waiting.
Awesome. Okay, and I'll play that.
Now I would like to say a word with Alex. Can I? Now I would like to say a word with Alex. Can I? Now I would like to say a word with Alex. Can I?
Oh, so amazing. Really, truly amazing. I'm going to hit stop share right now. Yeah, that is, your work is so amazing. And there, it brings to mind, because I've been fortunate enough to have Craig Hogan, you, also Dr. Gary Schwartz, who's working on the soul phone. And this afterlife communication is just really phenomenal. And there's so much hardcore science behind it. It's not woo-woo. It's real science, and we have real scientists working on this. And I think it's so amazing. Now, I think I asked Dr. Gary Schwartz, when he was a guest on my show, when does he think? And this is all just, speculation. But when do you think we'll be able, as a society, as a global society, to be able to communicate easily and freely to the other side, like we do with the internet now? Now I can communicate and see you face to face, and you're in Brazil and I'm in Pennsylvania. Now that was unheard of 50 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, but we're doing it now. So, and I believe that everyday people, everyone will be able to pick up a phone and contact their loved ones on the other side at some point. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that I'm not so enthusiastic about this do it one thing. First of all, humanity is not prepared. Yes. Remember that the greatest religions deny afterlife. Either Christianism, Catholicism, Jewish, Muslims, all them deny afterlife. So the communication. Okay. Imagine what shock would be if all of a sudden scientists prove that these communications are real. It will be an implosion inside some religions. Yes. So instead of being something good, it could be harm. So humanity needs time to discover this reality, and this will go very slow, because some faith, that denies and forbidding also the communication. So we have to go slow. And but I think that everything that is truth will come up someday when it is possible. It will be spread, but not in short time. So I think that in this meantime, they are preparing themselves with technology to become easier and easier to communicate with us, which is still let's say a difficult process. It is not that easy just to turn on something as we're talking now. Yes. But they are, Tesla mainly is doing his best to make this easier, this process easier, so that when time comes, this communication will be for everyone. And so that at this moment you could be, just after this recording of this show, you'd say, well, let me say a word to my son. Yes. And then you just click and you could speak to Kyle. Yes. That would be absolutely fantastic. I think that, yes, one day this will happen, but not tomorrow, not in 1 year or two, I think. But for sure, just because it is truth, yes, this will be real one day. Yes. As soon as humanity is prepared. Yes. And I agree with you 95%. And I say that in the sense that I do understand exactly what you're saying about the religions. A matter of fact, I have lost friends because when I started this show, and I have mediums and channels on this show, so I have friends that are fundamental Christians, they stop speaking to me. So I understand what you're saying because of the religious dogma. And now the interesting thing about religious dogma is all of the religions believe there is an afterlife, but they don't think you should communicate with the afterlife. Yeah. So, these are two points. Yeah. Yes. So that's kind of, it's like, okay, you believe there's an afterlife, but you say it's no to communicate. Why? Yeah. But honestly, I believe humanity's awakening is happening exponentially faster than it has in past years. I believe we are in an era of humanity's awakening. And I truly, me personally, I believe that it's happening very, very, very quickly. And that many, many people are
just turning away from the dogma of religion. Not that they can still be Christian or Muslim or Hindu or whatever religion, but they're turning away from the dogma of it and embracing more truth, as you said, you know, more spirituality truth. And many more people are leaving traditional religion and becoming more spiritual. So
Yeah.
and I think especially because I stopped watching television, mainstream television, many years ago, and I only watch what's going on the internet, on YouTube and Facebook and all that. And there's so many people open to the work you're doing, the work that all of the scientists are doing right now. There's so many more people. It's still not mainstream yet.
Yeah.
But even though it's not mainstream, many people are open to it. And I truly believe that it's not going to be very long where we are going to be able to all communicate, each of us to communicate with our loved ones on the other side. And Kyle did say in that first reading with Suzanne Giesman, I've only had 2 readings, and Kyle did say that he's very proud of what I'm doing with this show, and he is my co-host. So he's right here. He's here right now because whenever I do a show, I know Kyle is with me. So
For sure.
Yes, for sure. So yes, this is amazing. Please continue all of the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I was so honored to meet you at the symposium, and I know the next symposium I'll be there, you'll be there. I get to see you again and see all the advancements you made this coming year of 2019. So
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I thank for the opportunity of speaking to your listeners and to speak back to you again. That's my pleasure. And whenever you want to know some news, it'd be my pleasure to talk to you and your listeners.
Thank you. And we'll stay in touch by email. Anything like if something big happens, email me. Make sure I'm on your news email list.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sonia. This has been so wonderful. Thank you. And continue the wonderful work you're doing. Yes.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yes. Much love. Bye-bye.
Bye.